Hi, I'm Terry, better known as Mr. White Keys. So today I've got something great for you. Today we're going to talk about the Masunaga 100s. I've talked about the Masunaga 100s in a different colorway. That was the olive colorway, which looked rather gray. One of the discussions that I had with Daniel Brunson was that perhaps when they think olive, they think of the black olives, whereas we normally think of the green olives. So maybe it's like an off black colorway. They are definitely one of the most comfortable frames and the best frames that I have ever put on my face. I love them, which is why I ended up buying a second pair. Today we're going to talk about this colorway. This colorway is color number 25, and that is a deep navy blue at the top, blending to a demi-amber at the bottom, and the temples are also demi-amber. And this is an absolute fascinating colorway. I absolutely love it, and I've gotten a lot of compliments on this. The tint that I did on the lenses was a Bali sunset blending to a watermelon at the bottom, which I think kind of brings out the colors in the frames. But in any case, we're going to talk about all of that in detail. We're going to talk about Masunaga. We'll talk about the frames. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. One of the things I was concerned about when I was first designing these glasses and trying to get the lens color and all of that, is a tint going to bother me if it's something that I'm going to be using every day? Now right now what you're seeing with these, you're seeing the extra active brown transition, so it's a little darker than it normally is when I'm inside. And that was one of the questions that I had is it going to bother me to have a full-time tint indoors? And the answer is no. The answer is you can barely notice the tint when you're looking out through the tint. It's just more something that other people see when they look at you, and it adds interest to the glasses. It's probably one of the most fun parts of putting together a pair of glasses. Hicks Brunson Eyewear has been absolutely fantastic, and Becky Jo in particular. She is a color expert and has been incredible help in trying to put all these things together. So this year is the first year that I've actually experimented with tinted lenses, and I have a lot of different colors. I have blue, I have G15, this is the Bali Sunset, and I have a few others. I only have 2 clear pairs of glasses, and I would recommend that if you're going to tint lenses, at least have 1 pair of glasses that is clear, because in driving at night, I have found that with the brownish tints, it does tend to bother me a little bit. Not so much that I would not drive at night with them, but it is a little bothersome. That is not the case with a blue tint, and it's not the case with a G15. In fact, I think the G15 tint actually helps me see better at night. So that's just one of the lessons that I learned. The other lesson I learned is life's too short to bore ourselves. Why spend a lot of money on a pair of glasses without having a fashion tint? I would strongly consider it. Once again, keep 1 pair clear just in case maybe you're driving at night or something like that. You're on a long road trip and you need some clear glasses because you're going to be driving at night. But I absolutely love the fashion tints. It really adds interest to the glasses, especially if you're going to do like a rimless glass or something like that. But I do get a lot of compliments on the tint, so I'm really glad that I did it. At the end of the day, it was the right thing to do. So one of the things that's really nice about getting an IoT endless lens, whether you're getting a progressive or whether you're getting single vision, I got progressive in these, is it removes that distortion at the edge of the lens. So if you've ever put on a pair of glasses and you feel like you're just swimming because of the distortion on the edges, you almost don't even want to wear them anymore. That's the answer, is do a freeform lens, whether it's single vision or whether it's a progressive, especially in progressive lenses. In 1897, the only industry in Shounu, which is modern-day Fukui City in Japan, was agriculture. The long winters prevented the locals from securing an income, resulting in poverty. Gozaemon Masunaga, born 1871 and died in 1938, wanted to find a way to better the lives of people. With the spread of printed literature, he realized that there was a need for eyeglasses and it was growing. Gozaemon Masunaga founded Masunaga Optical in 1905 with his brother Kohachi, taking high school-aged children and putting them in teams of 5 led by one Master Craftsman, which they recruited from Tokyo and Osaka. They would apprentice during the day, and Gozaemon would teach them reading, writing, and arithmetic at night because he used to be a school teacher. After decades working this way, they would then become certified Master Craftsmen and would open their own shops in Fukui. In this way, Sabae, Fukui, became the eyewear capital of the world in Japan, known for making the best handmade eyewear in the world with extraordinary precision and care, driven by the Japanese principle of Monozukuri, or the pursuit of perfection in master craftsmanship. Today, 97% of all eyewear manufactured in Japan is manufactured in Fukui. Masunaga is family owned and operated, led today by CEO Satoru Masunaga since 1989. He is the founder's grandson. They make the best eyewear in the world, for which they have won numerous awards over the years. In 1933, Masunaga was selected to make eyewear exclusively for the Japanese emperor. Their master craftsmen make all of their eyewear by hand, employing a proprietary 200-step process, which they have been using now for more than a century. They do not rush the process, nor do they take any shortcuts. To polish the frames, they roll around in a tumbler with bamboo chips and pumice for about 20 hours before getting washed and hand polished. Then back into the tumbler using a series of chips that are successively smaller. And they do this 5 times. So 20 hours in the first one, then hand polish and wash, and then 20 hours the second time. They do this 5 times. Following this, the frames are polished by hand using a series of spinning wheels, which is the most time-consuming part of the whole 200-step process. The polishing process also hardens the frames and makes them more scratch resistant, which is one of the reasons why they last for decades. It takes almost 9 months to produce a pair of handmade eyewear, and the polishing process alone takes about 4 of those months. Part of those months are consumed in making the acetate itself for the eyeglasses. But it's well worth the wait, as Masunaga frames are known for looking just as good decades later as they did the day they were first made, maintaining their brilliant shine and finish. Their acetate frames feature Japanese beta titanium core wires in the temples, which often include intricate hand-carved detailed coining work. The titanium core wire used in this frame is stronger and lighter, which makes the frames lighter compared to other manufacturers. A lot of manufacturers use stainless steel. Now, the Masunaga 000 is a thick, bold acetate frame which served as the inspiration for the Masunaga 100, and it was first produced in 1970, which was inspired by the Custom 72 frame. It quickly became one of the single most popular frames in the world. It was placed in a time capsule at the World's Fair in Osaka, Japan in 1970. The name 000 represents the beginning, reflecting its foundational role in the Masunaga collection. The Masunaga frames often feature a parallelogram on the sides of the frames because Masunaga represents quiet luxury. So here's the parallelogram that is Masunaga's mark on the frame. The Masunaga 100 was released in 2023 as a tribute to the 000, and they're definitely a good extension of the 000. Both the Masunaga 100 and the Masunaga 000 are made from a chunky 6mm acetate on the front of the frame and have 150mm temple arms and a base curve of 5. The Masunaga 100s have a frame front width equal to the length of the temple at 150mm, a 52mm eye size, 21mm nose bridge, and a height of 40.6mm. The Masunaga 000 have a frame front width of 145mm, a 50mm eye size, a 22mm nose bridge with a height of 38.6mm. The 100 is 5mm wider with an eye size that is 2mm wider in each eye and 2mm taller. The taller lenses and wider frame front really make the Masunaga 100s look a lot wider than the 000. The 100s feature a nose bridge that is 1mm narrower, even though they feel like they sit a bit lower on the nose than the 000. The temple arm length and the base curve are identical. The hinge is always the weak point in a pair of glasses. That's why Masunaga focused their attention on designing their hinges for longevity. The feeling of opening and closing these temples is very satisfying because they don't just fall open or closed like cheap glasses. Instead, they feel solid, and if you close them all the way, they hold their position. Or actually, it doesn't matter where you put them, they'll hold their position. So if I do this, it holds its position, right? In any case, They feature 7-barrel hinges that are some of the most sturdy hinges in the eyewear industry, attached with 2 rivets through the core wire all the way to the opposite side of the temple arms. They feature a slightly wider bridge, giving it a wider appearance, although the frame width is actually pretty much the same. They fit a bit lower on the bridge than the 000. The 7-barrel double riveted hinges are made of titanium plated with sterling silver. The words on the temples are also engraved in silver. They are far and away the most comfortable acetate frames you will ever put on, and they fit like a pair of comfy slippers. Both are solid as a tank. One of the reasons why they feel so comfortable is because Japanese acetate, aside from going through a much longer process of curing before they are made into glasses to ensure that all of the solvents are gone and most of the moisture has already gone before they begin making the frames, they also use far less plasticizer, and they use an acetate that they make themselves that is derived from a cotton extrusion process. So it feels very organic on the skin. These particular frames are color number 25. So that's a deep navy blue on the top and a demi-amber tortoise on the bottom. The temple arms are also in demi-amber. One of the things I love most about these frames is you can see the underlying core wire. Now in this case, there's not a whole lot of detailed coining work, but it's a very nice looking core wire. It's fairly simple in terms of its design, but it looks just gorgeous looking at it through the translucent temple arms. To the progressive Trivex lenses, I added an Italy brand double gradient tint, starting at 40% Bali Sunset at the top of the lens, blending to a 25% watermelon at the bottom of the lens. And I did an IoT endless progressive lens, which is a freeform lens. I think it's a really good compromise. The price is very, very reasonable as compared to something like a Shamir or a Zeiss lens. And it's just the best bang for your buck. And the vision is just absolutely fantastic. You get a wide corridor. It almost seems like the lenses know what you're looking at, whether you're looking at an iPhone or an iPad or a computer, or whether you're looking at distance. Or I also play music, as you all know, and I can see the music on the music stand without feeling like I have to tilt my head to make the adjustment. Now, there apparently is some science behind the good feeling that you get when looking at the world through rose-colored glasses. It triggers a dopamine release in the brain. So I think this tint really makes the navy at the top of the frame just pop. I also added extra active brown transition, which you can see here, which is nicely complements the tortoise in the frames. It also adds a lot of contrast as compared to a gray transition. So combining the transition with the tint makes it darker, and also adds a bit of reddish color that you'll notice to the brown, which I think is really nice. I really love the Masunaga 100s, and this is my second pair. I plan to get a third and maybe a fourth. It's very likely that the next pair that I'm going to get is going to be color number 19, which is black with a fire red gradient and a Gen S ruby transition with a flash blue mirror. I might also get the Demi, which is color number 53, with the double gradient topaz to copper tint, or perhaps maybe almond to gold, which is a tint that I've had in another pair of glasses before. I had those in the Tom Davis 729s. You'll notice that the color codes for the Masunagas are uniform across all of the models. So we're talking about the quality of Masunaga, which is unequaled anywhere, and in particular the quality of Japanese handmade eyewear. You'll see how this ties in a minute. I want to show you something that just came today. These are Versace's, top of the line, made in Italy, very expensive. So let me show you the Versace. Here it is. Here's the case. Ooh, has gold lettering on the case. I open the case and they give you a little Versace bag with the little Versace name tied down there. Okay. They haven't been adjusted. Actually, neither have the other ones yet. They sit a little wonky on my face. I love the colorway. That's kind of cool. And then on the side, you can see the name Versace. Very, very big letters. You see Versace. Wow. These are expensive, and in fact they are. So here's the story. Versace is a Luxottica brand, and as you know, Luxottica is a multi-billion-dollar Italian company that has purchased a number of different eyewear brands. They purchased Pearl Vision, they purchased Lens Crafters. They even bought up Eymed, which is vision insurance. They own Sunglass Hut. They own Ray-Ban, Persol. They own Oliver Peoples. Just about every brand that you can probably think of that's not independent handmade eyewear, which is what I do reviews on. What I want to show you is this. Look at the arms. What the hell is going on with the temple arms? This is brand new. It just came. They're not used or returned or anything else. They just came. It's apparently right out of the factory. On the arm, it says made in Italy. Italy is probably the second best place in the world for handcrafted eyewear. But I'll leave it to your imagination whether it's really made in Italy. I have questions. Or maybe they have a factory in Italy and it doesn't really operate to the same standards as a lot of the more traditional Italian factories. I'm sure that the acetate is Monozukuri, which is an Italian acid. But look at the temple arms. Let me show you the difference. These are the Masunagas. This is why this is related to a Masunaga review. Look at this. They're straight. I want to show you a few other things too. This is my other pair of Masunagas. Let's look at the temple arms. What? That's Japanese quality right there. That's Japanese hand craftsmanship. This is another pair of Masunaga 100s. This is the olive colorway. But the temple arms, the hinges, the angle of the temple, it doesn't go out or do anything wonky like you just saw with the Versace's. It's just straight as an arrow, Japanese precision. Now I have had these adjusted. The ones I have on my face, I don't have them adjusted. Notice they kind of lean a little bit to one side. I have to get that fixed just because everyone's face is different. It's asymmetrical. One of your ears is slightly higher than the other one. I know you don't want to hear that, but that's true for every human being on the planet, which is why an optician has to adjust it. These have been adjusted. You'll notice that these sit straight. And you know, this is pretty much straight out of the box. This is almost straight out of the box. Very small adjustments were made to these. What I want you to understand is one pair of these buys you 2 pairs of these with superior craftsmanship. 10 years from now, that shine that you see on these glasses will look exactly like that. 20 years from now. These, on the other hand, it's not Japanese acetate. It uses 70% plasticizer, which is a petroleum-based product, which is why it doesn't feel organic on the skin. Whereas these use about 23% plasticizer, the least amount that they can get away with. And most of it is made from a cotton extrusion-based acetate. And they don't polish these. There are a whole lot of differences in the process that went into making these as making these. When you look at these 10 years from now, or even 5 years from now, that shine will be gone. These are glasses that are made to be thrown away. Luxottica has the audacity to still charge you nearly $1,000 for glasses like these. What are you buying? Clearly you're not buying the quality. That's what you're buying right there. See the name Versace? Everybody knows Versace, supposedly a quality name. Luxottica licenses that name. It's a question in my mind how much Versace even had to do with the design of these, but you know, who knows? Maybe they did design them, fine. But the quality. Now back to Japanese handmade eyewear. I mean, you can see the difference. You can feel the difference. My wife put these on after putting on the Versace's and remarked how soft these feel on your face because of the cotton extrusion, 50% less plasticizer used, and a polishing process that's 4 months long instead of a few weeks long, as they would be as an example with the Versace's. Now I'm going to show you something else. And you're going to see that you're smarter already. Watch this. These are T. Henry's, T. Henry Daytonas to be specific. This is number 148 of 149 that were ever made. I'm just showing this to you. I'm showing you the hinges. Can you guess where these are made? I'll give you a hint. They're designed in Boca Raton, Florida by Tyler Henry. But where are they actually made? That's right. They're handmade in Japan by Master Craftsmen that more than likely apprenticed at Masunaga, the ones that I just showed you. Japanese handcrafted eyewear. Look at that. Now, you can buy 2 of these for 1 pair of Versace's. And you can buy, okay, yeah, that's not a good conversation because these are probably a little more expensive than the Versace's. But in any case, don't they look amazing? But you can tell handcrafted eyewear, first glance, first touch, you already know. Oh, by the way, here's the case they give you, not the cheap plastic case that Versace gives you. And by the way, they didn't even give me the courtesy to give me a cleaning cloth. Here's the cleaning cloth for Tyler Henry. I've never actually unfolded this before, so you guys are the first to see this. Boom, now that's a cleaning cloth. It's made of satin, and it is very, very soft. It's also very, very heavy, definitely made from quality material, and the design on it is just fantastic. So I get a cleaning cloth with Tyler Henry. I get a really nice one with Masunaga too. I'll show you that in a second. I'm going to show you another pair since we're having the same conversation. By the way, here is the cloth from Masunaga, and it feels very, very nice. A microfiber cloth. It has in gold lettering Masunaga 1905. Here's the box. gold lettering that is gold. Now I'm going to show you another pair, and we're going to play a game. I'll tell you the designer. This is Leisure Society, Merano. These are designed by Shane Baum out of Costa Mesa, California. I'm going to put them on. Okay, now we're going to play the game. Where are these made? That's right. Japanese craftsmen made these glasses. So these are made by hand in Japan by the same master craftsman that more than likely apprenticed at Masunaga in Sabae, Fukui, Japan, where 97% of all handmade Japanese eyewear is made. And you can see the difference, you can feel the difference, and then the complexity, the intricate detail on the core wire. Who can do that? Can you send that to a Chinese factory? Can they do that? No. They can't. They can't even begin to do that. I would argue that Italian factories would have quite a challenge trying to reach this level of finish. And that is, by the way, a laminate clear acetate window. So it's basically like a 2-layer acetate there of 2 different colors. So there's some complexity there. You also see that things are screwed together rather than glued. If the stuff is glued together, you know it's made in China. But this is more of a constructionist mindset. So everything is riveted, it's screwed. These are torque screws, and you can actually undo these. You can take these apart. You can replace the hinge if you needed to. Try that with something that's made in China. They're glued together, and you basically throw them away when the hinge stops working, especially the spring hinges. I think you've heard me rant about spring hinges from Luxottica. But in any case, so that's handmade. You can tell at first touch, you can tell by looking, you can tell by the feel, you can tell by the fit that these are handcrafted Japanese eyewear, even though they were designed in Costa Mesa, California. So one thing I did with the Versace's is I put a sapphire Gen S transition. So I like the way these look. I just need to get the arms straightened out. Another thing about eyewear that's made in Italy, is that because they use so much plasticizer, the plastic is very soft. So it's very easy to heat this up a little bit, and then all of a sudden it just bends, and sometimes it bends too much. Another thing that happens is right here in the frame front will bend. Now that's not something that you want to happen, because the lenses are designed for this panoscopic tilt, which in this case is 7 degrees. I'm eyeballing it. It's designed for this panoscopic tilt. If this twists or changes, and I can almost twist it in my hands, I'll be honest, it's not too bad. The hinges aren't too bad. There's some good things about this. We'll talk about that in another review. But you don't want the thing to twist, because if you twist, you can't see correctly anymore. Now let's go back to the Masunagas for comparison. This is the olive colorway that I was talking about before. Now, if you look at this, it's very difficult to tilt them. If you try to do it, these feel much, much stiffer. That's because of the lower amount of moisture and the lower amount of plasticizer that's used. Another thing that does, partly because of the polishing process and partly because of the long process they have for drying out the acetate so that all the solvents are gone and all but 2% of the moisture is gone before they even begin to make them as glasses. They lose very, very little moisture even after 10 or 20 years, which is why they still are going to look the same as they do right now, 10 or 20 years from now. Almost like an heirloom. You don't want to buy glasses and throw them away. That's what Luxottica wants you to do, because then you buy more glasses. And they spend a few dollars to make them, and they charge you $700, $800 so you can impress your friends with the name. Versace, Dolce & Gabbana, all of the brands that you've heard of before, whose names are licensed to Luxottica. When they do the lettering is actually gold. The core wire is titanium, it's not stainless steel. So the materials, the workmanship, the craftsmanship are far superior than the Masunagas. And these cost half of what the Versace's cost. And they don't even give you a cleaning cloth. So that's my rant for the day. So certainly one of the things that I've learned from this experience as I've grown my eyewear collection, my eyewear wardrobe, out of all the glasses I've added to my collection, and the first one that I added was the Masunaga 100. It is very reasonably priced for handmade artisan eyewear. Every other piece that I have in my collection is actually more expensive, except for maybe the American Optical, which I really love as well. But I don't love it as much as the Masunaga 100. It feels so good when you put it on. It feels so comfortable. You don't even feel like you have glasses on. It just hugs your face. Part of the magic of that, not only is it the Japanese acetate that's primarily made of cotton, but it also has to do with the nose bridge fit. So this is a saddle nose bridge, and the way that it fits, it's maximum contact on the front of the face, maximum contact on the nose bridge, maximum contact on the sides, etc. And it just takes all the weight. And aside from that, these are balanced so well that it just really makes them extremely comfortable. And part of the reason why they're balanced so well You see how it's just a little bit fatter at the end of the temple arm? And that's what takes a lot of the weight and puts it behind the ear. And I think the temple arm links are just perfect for me as well. So the lesson that I learned is that you don't have to spend thousands of dollars on a pair of eyewear just to get something that you're just really happy with and will also last you for decades. So if you're starting your eyewear collection, I highly recommend one of the first pieces to add to that is the Masunaga 100. They look equally well on men and on women. I put these on my wife's face. They look fantastic on her as well. And they make also a great sunglass. Masunaga 100 is probably a good candidate for maybe your first pair of eyewear. If you have a medium to small head, you might want to look at the 000, but it's basically the same thing. It's that same acetate. It's going to be basically the same fit, just slightly smaller, and the look of it is slightly smaller. But in any case, I absolutely love these. So that's all I've got for you today. Next, we'll be talking about the Leisure Society Merano, which is the big brother to the Leisure Society Equense. So you've got two different sizes, although they have different names, for the same absolutely beautiful frame. So that's all I've got for today, and I'm just about as hot as I want to be, so I think I want to go inside now. And traffic's getting pretty thick, so trying to film while all these cars are going by is not fun, at least not the kind of fun you wear your good clothes to, you know. Another lesson learned. Trying to film next to the main roadway not only gives you background noise like this with cars coming by, but most of my neighbors at this point think that I've completely lost my mind because they see me sitting here talking to myself to a camera in front of the neighborhood. I'm waiting for the cops to show up at some point. That's not fun. And here comes another car. Yeah. Okay. And that's all I've got today. That's it. Thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.